What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And this one, I want to break down what's going on with the overall market, what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of tickers out there, and quickly talk about what under the charts are suggesting for the market so far. But before I do anything like this, before I talk about what I predict to happen for tomorrow and what you should be watching for, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm firstly not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends very soon, in just about 9 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market and talk about all these different stocks. I also apologize, guys, if my sound quality is not as great as usual because of the fact that I'm recording this from a different place. I have been traveling a lot over the weekend. I hope everyone else is taking care for Labor Day. But anyways, looking back, tomorrow the market's going to open at the normal time, and then it's going to be at about 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern time or 10 o'clock a.m. New York time. 30 minutes after the market opens, that's when we have some data coming out. We have the month-over-month factory orders report and the economic optimism report coming out at those times. This is going to cause a surge in volatility. So when you're watching the charts, and this is what my game plan is, I could scalp in the beginning to see which way the market is going, but then once this data comes out, we're going to make a bigger move. And I think that this could cause the market to either get some kind of rug pull, start cooling off, or it could cause a little pop. My gut tells me that for now, the market may try to hold up just temporarily before we start to see the market cool off very soon. So I think Tesla in particular may make an attempt to balance. We have this tiny little bullish divergence intraday. And with that potentially forming, we're going to be watching the 200 EMA as resistance at this 247 area. Getting above that would bring this thing to about 250. And then the next imbalance is around 252. So I think around this zone right here between the 50 and the 200 on the 30 minutes time frame is where Tesla is going to be headed. And then once it approaches these EMAs in the very low 250s, we might see another rejection and an attempt to go even lower. I say that because of the fact that we have this imbalance down here on the 4-hour time frame at about 237. So I think Tesla's going to try to bounce a little bit, retest 250, and then continue to drop as time goes on by either the second half of Tuesday, if not by Wednesday, to fill this imbalance into the 230s. So overall, yes, we could see some downside, of course. I know it's not what you want to hear, but Tesla's still looking relatively weak. There could be a small bounce first before it starts to continue lower. I think that that's what's likely going to happen, in my opinion. Now, could this thing be forming a large head and shoulders with the left shoulder here, the head, and etc.? Yes, that could also be the case. So we might not get that much of a bounce before it ends up dropping down to where this base is. There's also a possibility of that happening. I'm leaning more in the direction of it trying to rebound just a tiny bit because of the small bullish divergence, the tiny micro one that formed on the 5 minutes time frame, which could help Tesla push back up to 250 to 252, and then we might reject around that 250 area and come right back down to 237 or even 235. That's where I'm leaning towards on Tesla. Are we going to hold 237? Sorry about that. I think that the answer is not necessarily. I think there could still be even more downside. Around that 235 to 237 area is going to make another attempted bounce, but it might not be that significant. And we could see Tesla just continue to fall into the 227 area. And then below that, we have 223, 221.5, and the list goes on. But I'm not too worried about the 220s until we break below 230. And so far, we have some nice support at 235 to 237. So what do I think is going to happen? A little pop first before this thing continues to fall. And I still think there's more downside, but we might make it an initial bounce first. Now for Aapl may be dictating everything. We're about to get a bearish cross on the PPO, and we do have a bearish divergence on the 30 minutes and the 4-hour time frames. But on the daily chart, Aapl has this unfilled gap around 190 to 191. Now, I think we may get a little pop. We're still technically favoring the bulls a little bit more on Aapl. Aapl may help the market pop one last time before we form our top. And then I think we're going to get a very healthy retracement after that because Aapl was still in overbought territory. So look for this test around this 190 zone. We'll see if Aapl could try to get up there. Then we may get a rejection and this thing may start to cool off because of the fact that we have this bearish divergence. We're about to get a bearish cross in the PPO. And I think that one last pop before the drop is very, very likely for Aapl. I think that may drop the QQQ as well. We could see the QQQ retest 380 to 382, somewhere around there. But I think it's in the topping process. Now it's looking more bearish than Aapl and SPY, so there's a good chance that the QQQ has topped. But just to be safe, there's a chance it's going to rebound a little bit thanks to the economic optimism report, retest the very low 380s before it drops even lower, and then we could see a bearish divergence develop and this thing potentially start to cool off. If that's the case and we see the QQQ start to cool off, I'm going to be watching it to retest 375, 371, then 368. So there could be more downside coming nonetheless. For SPY, I'm seeing something very similar playing out. There could be one last push to the upside. We do have a bearish cross on the PPO, so the trend is starting to shift in favor of the bears a bit more. But there could be one last attempt to push up. This could be like another liquidity grab at this 454 area. We could technically see that. If we break above that, then 456 is technically on the table. I'm not really counting on it to pump that much, but I'm thinking there's going to be one last pop in the market for Tuesday, and then we may start to downtrend after that for Wednesday and beyond. And we could see the market start to cool off. We could see SPY make its way back down to like 248, 245. Those all could come later on during the week. But for now, watch for one last pop before that happens. I think Aapl could cause that, and I was talking about this over the weekend as well. For Nvda, it could retest this 490 area before it gets a rejection and starts to cool off to about 475 as the days go on. The 4-hour time frame is looking more bearish, and we have this PPO crossover. Not to mention the fact that we have this imbalance at like 466, which is acting as the magnet. It's once again pushing Nvidia down, and that's the algos adjusting themselves. So watch this 50 EMA at this 475 area. A little pop to retest resistance at 490 before it comes back down. I mean, I'm leaning more in the favor of that potentially playing out. Same thing with like the Nasdaq hitting its resistance at 14,000. We're approaching this resistance. I just want to mention that that's very important to note. We have the slanted head and shoulders, which is technically not invalidated just yet. I don't think it means the market's going to like tank. I think we might get a very healthy pullback first, but we could just continue pushing because ultimately we may invalidate this head and shoulders. So I'm not too concerned about that as well. For the VIX, I just want to mention that the VIX is very, very oversold. It's been continuing to drop, and it's at support around this 12.73 area. We got lots of bounces between 12.73 and 13. So it may come down a little bit lower into the high 12s before this thing tries to bounce. That's the historical area where it tries to bounce, and that could mean that the market drops a little, the market pumps a little bit before the market ends up dropping after that. For the dollar, we're starting to slow down on momentum, approaching this resistance. The dollar might kind of cool off a bit, retest 14 flat, then make an attempt to bounce and start pushing for the inverse head and shoulders and start pushing for 14.45 or higher. That's what I'm leaning towards. The dollar dropping, then trying to pump later on. And then that could also have a negative effect on the markets. For Coinbase, it may actually drop a little bit more. It's actually retesting this area. It looks a little bit more bearish on the chart. Could we get a retest of like 80 almost before it continues lower? I think what's going to happen is that's going to be the case, and we're going to make our way back down to 73.5. I think it may pop a little bit first before it continues lower, and the odds greatly favor that. Google is looking no different. Google may get a little pop, a retest of this resistance at 137, reject off that, then make its way down to 133.97. For Amazon, it's no different. We may be seeing a retest of about 139 before it rejects and comes down and retests 135. And Meta may retest 300 before rejecting and coming all the way back down to 295. So hopefully this video was helpful, guys. I want to make this as quick as possible. Enjoy the Labor Day weekend for whatever is left and do what you have to do, guys. I thank you all so much for listening and have a great weekend. Thank you and peace out.